Welcome everyone to Chapter 12. This is called Predominant Seventh Chords and Embedded Phrase Models. These are little mini-me models that are embedded inside of the larger structure. We'll get to that in the middle of the chapter, but let's start off right now with the overview. So Laitz says, when you are finished with this chapter, you will be able to do the following. Number 1, intensify the predominant harmonies by adding a chordal seventh. Number 2, expand the predominant function using passing chords. And this third bullet point talks about the embedded miniature phrase model, tonic, predominant, dominant, and tonic within the tonic portion of a phrase. And the last one is you will be able to identify the components or subphrases that in turn combine into longer phrases. So how do predominant seventh chords behave? Let's begin by playing example 12.1a. It's on the next page. First, let's go to the bullet points at the top of page 284. Laitz says, in a major key. The major triad 4 becomes a major seventh chord, capital 4-7. And the minor triad 2 or 2-6 can become minor seventh and 2-6-5. We're going to see that right now down in letter 12.1b. So pop down where it says letter B, predominant triads versus predominant seventh chords in the major mode. Let's begin with the first one. This is a simple 1, 2, 6, 5 to 1. Pick your favorite part and sing it. Here we go. In red, level 2B, the structural component of the phrase model, simple, tonic, predominant, dominant, back to tonic. And all of those rectangular boxes are encompassing the predominant chord. Okay, let's move on to measure 2. Well, that was way better than just a simple 2-6. Here's 2-6, here's 2-6-5. More interesting, isn't it? Still in a predominant function. Now let's look at the next one. A simple 2 chord. That's kind of boring, but this becomes a 2-7, much more interesting. Now the last one is changing a 4 chord, major 4. Is now going to become a major 4-7. Way better. Alrighty, we're going to play through letter B. You pick the part you want to sing, either the bass line or one of those 3 upper lines, and stick with your same part throughout. We're just going to continue through the whole spectrum here. So here's your pitches. Letter B. Ready? Go. All right, let's go back to the top of page 284. The second bullet point says, in a minor key, the minor triad 4 becomes the minor seventh chord of 4-7. So here's the 1 chord, here's the 4 chord. Now here is adding a 7th to it. That is a minor 7th chord right there. It's got a minor triad and a minor 7th between the first note and the last note, the outer voices. Now, the diminished triad number 2, here it is right here. Or if you invert it, you get that. Now when you go back to adding a 7th to the top of it, you have a diminished triad and a minor 7th on the outside, so it's a half diminished 7th chord. You invert it once, it sounds like this. It's beautiful, isn't it? Now we go down to letter C, And for some reason, the writing that I had put on this one is missing. But it's also showing tonic, predominant, dominant, and tonic for every one of those bars, okay? So what you're going to be listening for is the rectangular box, diminished 2-6. Next one is diminished 2-6-5. The third box is back to a root position. Oof, that was nasty. And then the next one is a root position 2-6-5. That was not as bad. Then it's going to go to a simple 4 and a 4-7. So pick your favorite part to sing, either the bass line or one of those 3 upper voices, and follow the thread of staying on the same part, either the top, the middle, or the bottom. Okay? Here we go. Ready? Go. I think we would all agree in both letters B and C that when you add a chordal seventh to the predominant area, it makes it so much more interesting than a simple triad. Now, Laitz says in the paradigms above, notice 2 features of the voice leading. First bullet point says, the 7th of the predominant 7th chord is treated in exactly the same manner as the suspensions that you studied in chapter 10. They are prepared by common tone, held over in the same voice to become a dissonant 7th, and they resolve down by step. So, let's go up to letter B, and we're going to go over where it says capital 4, and in parentheses underneath, major becomes a capital 4-7, and in parentheses, 2 capital M's. So it's the very last one now. Here's an example of that. Preparation, suspension, resolution. It's not really that per se, but it's close. The next one is, though, let's do that last bar again. Preparation, suspension, resolution. So the voice that's dissonant is not the top C, it's the bottom E here. Listen again. Preparation, suspension, resolves down, and that's the chordal 7th. Let's go now directly underneath it to the last minor mode version. And again, we're going to be listening to this note right there. Here we go. Preparation, suspension, resolution. Now look at the bottom bullet point where it says, now in a 4-voice texture, meaning SAT and B as 4 distinct pitches, the chordal 5th is often omitted from a root position 2-7 and replaced by a double root instead. Now in any kind of 7th chord, you need a root and a third, and you need a 7th because that means it's a 7th chord. You need the third to tell if it's going to be a major triad or a minor triad on the bottom. But you can leave out the 5th if you want and still have the integrity of the dominant 7th chord. Here's without the 5th. Here's with the 5th. Hear the difference? Now we are going to explore some specific predominant 7th chords in context, beginning with the 2 chord. Now, I've written some stuff for you in red to the upper right of this slide, and I would like you to solfege this with me. So here's the 1 chord. Do, mi, so, mi, do. Now go up to scale degree Fa, 4. Now if you make a 4-7 out of this, it's Fa, La, Do, Mi. You hear it? That's a major triad and a major 7th on the outside. It's beautiful. Now the 2 chord would be re, fa, la. If you make a seventh chord out of it, it would be re, fa, la, do, la, fa, re. If I invert it to put fa on the bottom, just like we would with a 4 chord, it sounds like this. Fa, la, do, re. So that's your 2, 6, 5, and fa, la, do, mi is your 4, 7. They're just off by one syllable. 4, 7, 2, 6, 5. Now let's go to the minor mode. So the triad of the 4 is fa, la, do. If you add an E flat to the top, it would be the notes in the key of C minor. The notes would be F, A flat, C, E flat. I'm just using C minor because it's easier to think quickly in that key. So there is your minor 4, 7, fa, la, do, mi. Now let's go back to C minor. There's the 1 chord. The 2 triad would be D, F, A flat, re, fa, la. Now if I flip it once into 6, 5 inversion, now we have fa, la, do, re. And what kind of a flavor again is this 7th chord? It's got a diminished triad plus a minor 7th on the outside, so it is a half diminished. So that would be a half diminished 2 in 6, 5 inversion, fa, la, do, re, as opposed to the 4, 7, fa, la, do, mi. Alright, so let's figure out why the heck we just went through all that stuff. Let's look down at example 12.2a and notice how E flat, the chordal 7th of the 2, 6, 5 chord in the second measure. Okay, let's set it up. We're in E flat major. So we start off with okay, so listen to the chords. That's a G, B flat, E flat. If we're in the key of E flat major, that is mi on the bottom, making it 1, 6, fa. Now if it were a 4 chord, it would just be this. But it's got A flat, C, and an F on the top. If I unscramble that, it would be a F, A flat, C, E flat. So that would have been a 2, 7 chord, but it's flipped once to 2, 6, 5. Cadential 6, 4, 2, 7, 5, 3, 2, 1. Sing along one more time. Okay, listen to it once. Okay, so it's got. I'm going to change the second bar to just a 4 chord. This F on top is missing. Way more boring that way. So in the spectrum of interesting versus non-interesting, the 4 chord would be the not interesting. The 2, 6, 5 is much more interesting. And then cadential 6, 4, 7, 5, 3, 1. Sometimes it's hard to see the forest for the trees, so we do what we call reduction. So we're just going to figure out the chordal tones, and now you can see it better. So look down at letter B. Now I've circled the E flat in the middle of this thing, okay? So listen to the E flat, E flat, E flat, goes down to D, back to E flat. I've also put in red in the second bar so you can see 2, 6, 5 versus 2, 7. Y'all need to be able to calculate that on your own as soon as possible. And the 7th pops up to make it a 5, 7. The 2, 6, 5 chord is really powerful in the minor mode because it's got a half diminished quality. Now both minor 4 and 2, 6 share their qualities with other triads in the key, but the half diminished 7th chord occurs only on the 2 chord, and it has a distinctive predominant sound to it. Let's now take a listen to example 12.3. This is from Florence B. Price's Sonata in E minor for piano. This looks like it's from the first movement here, and it starts off andante in the tonic chord. So here we go. I'm guessing it goes to 1 at the end. All right, it's beautiful, isn't it? So we have this. You notice how we have E, D, C sharp, C. I outlined that in green. Let's go back one slide to see what that's all about. So he says the 2-6-5 chord is especially powerful in the minor mode owing to its unique half-diminished quality. So in Florence B. Price's phrase, the arrival of this unique chord on beat 3 of the third measure is highlighted in 2 ways. Number 1, by its metrical placement. It is metrically accented by occurring on beat 3, which is a strong beat. And also registrally, we see that beat 3 of bar 3, where that 2 half-diminished 6-5 chord appears, that predominant, is placed in a different register. Here comes things in the high register. Moving down here brings it out more. Okay? Now the tonic is decorated. I'm talking about the tonic expansion outlined in green. The tonic is decorated through an upper voice motion in a high register. There's the E, D, C sharp, C. So it's a kind of a motion, right? And then registrally, metrically accented on beat 3 there in the half-diminished 2-6-5 chord. It's lovely. Now, it's again hard for a lot of people to read keyboard music. There's a lot of music in different clefs that some of you may not read, either treble or bass clef, and a lot of notes to see at the same time. So Laitz has provided for us a reduction strategy box. He starts off with a terrible sentence that is a mouthful for me. It goes like this. To get a sense of just the harmonic progression of the Price phrase, I dare y'all to say that 10 times in a row without getting tongue-tied. In other words, to get a sense of the harmonic progression in that piece we just heard above, go ahead and omit the materials in the treble starting on beat 3 and just play the harmonies underneath. So then jump in at bar 3. There you go. Now you can hear it. Tonic. Predominant. Dominant. It makes it easier to hear that.